Hello and welcome to the Enrich Your Business Circle. I am super excited for us to have this episode on today where we explore business mindset, self-care, and faith on a weekly basis. I'm your host, Rickdrika Bennett, aka Ricky, and each week we look at our main four pillars so that we can empower ourselves to thrive both professionally and personally. And today we have an amazing guest that's going to take us through the process of the mindset and the self-care and spirituality so that we can make sure we're centered are moving forward in the right direction. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Ricky. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So, Alex, can you kind of introduce yourself and tell us more about your background?
Yeah, so my name's Alex Crowther. I'm sitting here just about 20 miles north of Detroit in Michigan,
Mhm.
and I'm currently the CEO of Pain Coach Academy. I'm a Brit by birth. You can maybe tell by my funny accent. So I've lived in the US for a long time. Um, I'm a proud US citizen today, but I originally came here for my career in advertising. I worked in advertising for about 30 years,
Okay.
and I was here in the US originally running the media for Chrysler and Jeep.
Okay.
And then later in life, I was running the global media business for General Motors, which is obviously a huge, huge piece of business. That's sort of what brought me here originally. Yeah. But today, Pain Coach Academy is obviously quite different to advertising. So what's
Mhm.
that all about, right? I developed a chronic pain disease called complex regional pain syndrome, something I'd never heard of, and most people I talk to have never heard of. Um, but I developed this disease about 12 years ago. Was when I started having pain, and it incrementally got worse and worse and worse over the years. And I wasn't even diagnosed until just about 3, maybe 4 years ago now. I had no idea. I'd be bounced from doctor to doctor to doctor. We don't know what's going on, and maybe it's all in your head, or maybe you got this terrible thing wrong with you, or this terrible thing. And I spent an absolute fortune in medical bills and tests and this, that, and the other. But I was eventually diagnosed at Henry Ford Hospital down in Detroit by their they've got a pain clinic, a fairly well-renowned doctor down there. Then I got a second opinion at University of Michigan as well. So I kind of seen two different places to be sure what was going on. But what happened ultimately was, this pain got to the point where at work I was sort of hiding it. The marketing business, Ricky, and it's not too forgiving. I would say it's a pretty ageist business, if I'm
Mhm.
really honest. And what you don't want to do is to age yourself out of the business by being, a creaky old person. And so I had this pain thing going on, and I was really pretending that there was nothing wrong. I was
Mhm.
faking it. And what would happen is faking it's exhausting. I mean, it's really tiring to pretend that you're putting on a smile while you're in real pain. And so I'd come home, and I'd maybe sit down for like 5 minutes after I got changed out of my work clothes, and I'd be fast asleep. I'd just sort of conk out through sort of sheer exhaustion. Anyway, my pain just kept getting worse to the point where I was I just wasn't living. I wasn't existing. The chair that I know you can see, but your audience won't be able to see. I've got a little armchair behind me, and that's the chair that I sat in, and really put a lot of thought into. I just want to be done with this. I don't want to be over dramatic. And if anybody is thinking terrible things and dark things, please ring that 988 suicide hotline. But I got to a really dark place, and I wanted to be done because I was living in 24/7 pain, and I was told that this is it. It won't change. It's a lifelong. There's no cure. Blah de blah. And that was a hard pill to swallow. Um, I'd worked really hard to get where I was, and by all accounts, I was living a successful life. But here I am stuck in a chair with a blanket around me, not able to do much for myself, and it was really sad. And if it wasn't going to get any better, I was like, well, like I'm a burden, and I'm not liking this, and I just want to be done. And it was through that process that I actually ended up discovering pain coaching, which I'll tell you lots about. But I want to stop and say one thing, because this will happen. You know, you may notice occasionally that I clam up like that. I might just stop talking, and I might just take a second. And it's not because I've got some crazy memory issue. It's because I've got this zing of a pain jolt that may just like get me. And it's sort of it hits me. It's like putting your finger in the touching an electrical wire, and it sends this little jolt, and I go kind of like a quick reaction inside myself, and then I feel a little bit of a burning sensation, and I have to do this exercise to myself, which is okay. We're safe. It's okay. And I sort of help manage my central nervous system. And I can do that pretty quickly. I can do that in a couple of quick seconds. But if you notice that, and you probably will, that's what's going on. So I share that with you as a point of learning too. Sometimes when you have someone with chronic pain, that's going to happen.
Mhm.
But yeah, so this thing kind of caught up with me, and so I was looking for a counselor of some sort, someone that I could talk to that could maybe help me with this process of how do I leave this earthly plane, but do it in a way that's not going to be a terrible situation for the people I love and care about. And I sat at my desk and I did the little Googling, and I'm looking for a pain counselor, I think was my Google search. I
Mhm.
didn't know. All I knew was to go to my doctor. Like that's what we are taught to do, right? We're taught to go talk to our doctor, right? But my doctors couldn't help. And so I do the Google search and I look for pain counselor, and this thing pops up, pain coaching. And I call the number, and I get hold of actually the CEO of a company that was managing pain coaching for their clients. And she talked to me about it, and she explained the process. And later that same day, I got connected with my pain coach, a lady called Jareen, which is now a very good friend of mine. And Jareen basically walked the walk with me. She started to explain how pain operates in the brain, which
Mhm.
which again we don't really know as everyday people. So she helped me understand what pain was and how pain works, and uh, the things like uh, the more we practice pain, it's like playing the piano. The more you practice a skill, the better wiring, the stronger the wiring in your brain becomes. And that's what happens with pain. The more you experience it, the harder those connections in your brain become.
Mhm.
And so effectively, I just became, I and many other people get really, really good at pain. Our signals and our wiring gets really, really good and strong. And so she explains things like this, and then we do all sorts of stuff in pain coaching. But a lot of the skills of how to calm that nervous system down and things like that were practiced with me. And so I would meet with her every single week for about an hour. It was a little bit more often in the beginning. I think I was meeting with her 2 or 3 times a week at the beginning. And then I would do group coaching as well, where you come together with several, maybe like 10 people who are all sharing a pain situation of some sort. And what's lovely about that is you get to share experiences, and you get to see that you're not alone in this world. It's a very isolating place, living in pain, and anybody that's listening that experiences pain will immediately know what I mean about it feeling very isolating. You can't think beyond your own self, and you believe that you're the only one, and this has been given to you and it's so unfair and all these terrible thoughts. And that's why being in group is a great thing, because you can see that, you know, this is something we share in common with many of our friends. And yeah, so look, that's where I am now. I know I've rambled on a little bit, but
It's okay. Thank you for sharing. I think you had a lot of great points and how you were explaining your personal journey with dealing with pain and health. And a lot of it seemed like you went through a process of understanding your pain and then reframing your pain so that you can manage it better. So
absolutely, yeah.
when you went through your process of reframing your pain, did you find like a different definition of how you defined what pain truly was?
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, the process. So I look. I would say during my process of sort of understanding pain, I
Mhm.
also had my own like spiritual awakening, if you want to call it that. I mean, I had never been. I mean, I'd been working in this big corporate world, and by all accounts, again, running big bits of business and making nice money and working really hard and traveling all over the world and everything else. And so I didn't really. My ego was probably a little bit out of check, if I'm honest,
Mhm.
and I reflect back on the person that I was, and spirituality really wasn't a thing. It just wasn't something that was that central in my life.
Okay.
But what I came to really learn was that there was a really big misalignment in my life. That if I was able to sort of almost do a little bit of a life review, that thing that we talk about, when you're dying and you like, oh, the moment of death, and you look back and you see what's happened. I sort of feel like I did one of those, and I look back at my life and I'm like, I got struck by lightning when I was 12 years old. I give you that as an example. Things like this have been happening in my life, and I'm like, hang on a minute. I think that, my whole life I've maybe been on this wrong path, and I was supposed to be here doing something else. And I've been given and shown these different signs throughout my life, and I haven't really paid attention until the point that I was made so unwell
Mhm.
that I had no choice but to pay attention, if you like. And so, yeah, I mean, this has been a real awakening for me, and my awakening has really been there has to be there has to be meaning in this. I have to give this pain some meaning,
Right.
and so that's what I set out to do. I mean, I'm a reasonably well resourced person, and yet I know all of these pain people now who live in this world of chronic pain, and I'm like, you know what? uh, we get a lot of misinformation, and we get a lot of bad advice, and I wonder if my place is trying to help people understand how they can manage pain better. I'm not offering a cure.
Okay.
That's not what we're doing here. Pain coaching is not about curing someone so they have no pain. But what we are able to do, I mean, just before I came on here and talking to you, I did a somatic exercise just sitting in my chair right here, where I did some breathing and I did some visualization. And I was touching something soft and, a number of different exercises. And I was able, again, to just calm my nervous system down a little bit so that
Mhm.
I felt good and prepared. And so that's what this is all about. It's about getting yourself to a place that you can live and you can thrive and you can have a good life. And this is possible. Um, it's just, we just don't need to live in this world of constant pain and doom and gloom.
Mhm. And I think what you're saying is very important because it provides people with tools to manage not just pain but stress, because sometimes when you're stressed out it can trigger other side effects that can also trigger pain as well. So
Yeah.
I think that's very imperative, and when you're an entrepreneur you get go through moments of stress, so being able to manage it and have those resources and tools
Yeah.
are very much so important. Is it like
Yeah, I mean, look, stress and emotion are deeply. I mean, they're bedfellows to pain, and they sit right alongside it. I mean, stress and emotion will always drive pain to a more difficult place. So we have to manage stress.
yeah. So when you went through your process of your awakening and actually managing your pain, what really struck you to create the pain coaching academy, like your vision or your mission behind it? Because I know
Yeah,
you wanted to teach others, but
yeah. So Pain Coach Academy has been around for a little while.
okay.
It pre-exists me. I was able to benefit from pain coaching because it existed. So what happened is a lady called Becky Curtis started Pain Coach Academy, a decade ago or so. And I was a very lucky recipient of receiving this pain coaching. And so what happened is, as I started to benefit and started to heal myself, not through taking pills, but by using the tools that a pain coach teaches
Mhm.
a person living with pain, I was struck by the fact that so few people know about this. And so, Ricky, what I did is I investigated who was doing the training, and I contemplated doing the training myself, and which I have done. But I thought, well, maybe I'll just become a pain coach, and I'll see if I can help the occasional person. But then I thought, you know what I can maybe do is be if I can get properly involved, my opportunity is not helping a person, but helping, many more people. Instead of helping 10 people as a coach, I can maybe help hundreds of people by making a big noise about this. And so by working with Becky and her son Paul, who works in the business as well, I got involved in some of the marketing work and what have you. And as time moves on, here I am now as CEO of the business, really helping to drive the growth of this organization. So that's how I kind of got involved. I got involved from the outside looking in as somebody that benefited from this thing. And, my greatest payback that I could ever give the business for helping me is to see if we can scale this up so that we can get thousands of pain coaches operating in the country. It's a fantastic career, to watch someone go from being chairbound or bedbound, and having a very limited life, and watching them literally transform from that person into somebody that can thrive again,
Mhm.
not through some crazy medical intervention or taking some pills. And I've got nothing that I have no problem with pills whatsoever. If they help, that's fantastic. But if we can bring down the pain, the sensation of pain in the body, which we know it's proven, there's science that backs this up, that we can, by just talking about, by just giving someone pain education, literally by just telling somebody that they're not broken, that where pain is manufactured and how it's manufactured, it brings down the sensation of pain by a couple of points. And then by doing these somatic exercises, by doing some of the things that I've shared, or I've got written in a book that we've just produced, again, we can bring down those pain levels. And so again, maybe it's the medication with that, but if we can bring these sensations down a few points, it's the difference between, like I said, being stuck in the chair and being able to live a life where you can thrive. And sometimes that's all people need. If they can bring the pain down a few points, it's enough.
Mhm. So and when I looked at like your background and I looked into some of the things that you're doing, I saw that you did like some blended disciplines when it came to the academy. So can you talk more about how you integrated the neuroscience, spirituality, and the practical techniques of your teaching?
Yeah, so pain coaching is sort of like a multidisciplinary approach. So the notion is that look, no two people are the same. No two people's pain experiences are the same. And for me, when I was going through coaching, something that really helped me a lot was understanding science. Was like, I'm a reader. I bought 1,000 different books about pain, and I sucked it up and I absorbed it, and it was just sort of what I needed. And my coach knew that, and she would pretty much every time I spoke to be recommending another book or another thing or another teaching and what have you. Uh, Alongside that, we'd maybe do breathing exercises in the group class, or we'd do some kind of meditation. I became a big meditator. I meditate a minimum 1 hour a day. I meditated for an hour at 6:30 this morning. I normally meditate in bed at night to try and help me get to sleep. So again, it's a plethora of like different things, but ultimately, Ricky, what you might need, or what your husband might need, or a family member might need, and what I might need could become very, very different. But there's a broad bench of tools that the coach has that they can draw upon. So whether it's diaphragmatic breathing, or some kind of somatic calming exercises, or pain neuroscience education, that the idea is the answer is always in the person. The person ultimately knows what they need. They need somebody to hold their hand and help them understand a little bit more. Really, really interesting. I was reflecting on this morning with someone. The very first day that I met with Jareen, my coach, we spoke for about an hour. And it was the first time that anybody had actually let me tell my complete pain experience story, the whole thing from beginning to end, which is kind of shocking. But we live in a world where, whether it's a pain management doctor, or your primary care physician, or any of the other things that you might do along the way, everybody's in such a hurry. Nobody actually has the time and the resources, to be perfectly honest, to sit and to listen to me explain that I think this came from a car accident that I had 12 years ago, and that I think that this happened and that happened, and A plus B plus C plus D. But Jareen was the first person to actually sit there quietly and hear me, to nod her head. I mean, not in a condescending way, but she was deeply, I mean, one of the core skills that a coach, any coach, but pain coaches in particular, they're taught. There's hard training on listening hard, and being able to reflect back to the client what they've understood. And we give the client the opportunity to correct, so that you've got somebody who actually thoroughly and properly understands what I am going through, what is my experience, because only through knowing my experience will they know how to help. And so that for me was amazing. It felt like, I can't even tell you, just such a weight came off by me being able to share with somebody who was actually interested what I believed was happening with me. And so, yeah, the whole notion is no two people are the same, and no two experiences are going to be the same. And the coach has lots of different things to draw upon, and they'll give you bits of what you might need along the way. For me, I'm still coaching. I plan to always be a client of coaching. I don't see my coaches often. But I do weekly. I go to a weekly coaching class, and I'm amongst a peer group of people that live with pain. And Jareen is there for me when I need to talk to her. But I also now sit on the flip side of this, where we're working with people with a pain experience.
So I guess my question would be, how is it that you're using your background in marketing today with what you're doing with the pain coaching? Or are you still using
Well, yeah, I mean, it isn't funny, really. I mean, it's the biggest problem that pain coaching has is being known.
Okay.
You didn't know about pain coaching. I'm pretty sure you didn't know about it before I was talking with you, right? And I'm sure that there are many people who are listening to this that never heard of it, and I didn't. And I had been going to pain doctors for over 10 years, and never once did the conversation came up that there is such a modality as pain coaching. It just never came up. And even after I have found out about it, and even then when I go and talk to a doctor about it, they sort of kind of like maybe give you a funny look and roll their eyes. It's like, yeah, you know what, if you want to try that, you go ahead. But this pill will probably be better. So there's a lot of not skepticism about it, but look, the medical system is it's a bit of an industry, and I don't want to be too rude, but it's rewarded by keeping people in the system. You go to a pain management doctor. If you're on pain medication, you have to go. You have to get your medication filled every month, and every time you go and see that doctor, it's maybe $300 for a pain management doctor appointment. That's what, nearly $4,000 a year in recurring revenue, and that's for a 15-minute appointment. So I don't know where the incentive is to actually get people out of the system and get people well. So I don't want to be kind of a big naysayer. There's nothing wrong with going and seeing doctors. I'm not suggesting that people don't go and see a doctor. They should. But if you are living with complicated pain and it has been going on for more than 6 months, because most chronic pain is defined technically as pain that persists longer than 3 or 6 months, depending on what the condition is. Okay. If it's been going on that long, then the pain is not in the tissue. The pain is now living in the brain and the central nervous system. And what we need to do is just as the brain has been really, really good at learning pain, the great and the wonderful thing about our brains is this thing called neuroplasticity, which means that just as your brain can learn to play the piano or riding a bike or learning pain, it can unlearn. It can unlearn pain and it can relearn safety. The opposite of pain is safety. And so if we can teach the brain, and one of the things that I'll do to myself, I think I maybe said to you already, but if I'm having a bad moment of pain, I'll just look at my hands. My pain is predominantly in my hands and up to my shoulders, but I have a few other places. But I'll look at my hands and I'll say, you know what, we're okay. It's safe. It's okay. And it might sound crazy, but it works. It works. I talk to my brain as if it's the third person, which is kind of peculiar in public. Probably I probably get a few looks, but I almost think of my brain and my central nervous system as like this person sat next to me who doesn't pay attention very much. Intellectually, I know that I'm safe. I know I'm safe. I'm in my house and the doors are locked and it's warm in here and there's no reason to not be safe. But for some reason, the organ in my head and my central nervous system believes that it's unsafe sometimes, and I need to give it the reassurance that it's okay, and I need to give it some of what it wants. Sometimes it's crying out for sleep, or it just needs to, like, it's not a difficult concept.
So I guess my last question I would ask you is that you emphasize more so when it comes to the power of purpose, that purpose is more powerful than pain. So can you elaborate on that message better?
Yeah. What I found, and I test this theory very often, is for me, and for anybody else that I know that has kind of a complicated pain situation, that by me giving my pain a purpose, by me giving it meaning, and for me, meaning became helping other people. If ever my pain starts to flare, my bedroom's the other side of my house, I don't know, a couple 100 feet away. I'll come trotting over to my computer. If I can feel a pain flare almost coming, if I come and I sit down and I maybe write a blog about calming the central nervous system, or replying to a lead looking for coaching, or whatever it might be, if I'm doing something in service of someone, almost instantly my pain level goes down. And again, there's science around this, that anybody that has a pain condition, if they go and they could go serve soup at a soup kitchen, But if you're doing service for other people, something miraculous happens, and it turns down that it softens that pain signal, and so for me again, like by me being in service of other people, by me helping, by me working to broadcast this message about pain coaching and how it can calm the pain and soften the pain. What to do is to I have taken that power away from my pain and I've given it some purpose, and so that's just it's just a fact. It's what happens.
Yeah. And thank you, Alex, for sharing because I feel like you gave us a lot of tips on self care. And many times when people do have pain on this journey, especially as an entrepreneur, we'll just take something and keep going, but not really look at the purpose or the cause behind the pain.
Yeah.
And we get sucked into that system of creating more bills than what we actually really need versus actually finding that core problem of what's going on. And I myself have went down that rabbit hole because I was diagnosed with being anemic for so long, and doctors would always try to put me on iron transfusions and they would always make me sick and never push the mark of my hemoglobin count. It would
Mm.
still stay the same. And I would go to different doctors and tell them, hey, I want to try something different. I want to try something more natural. And then they will always recommend me to another form of iron infusion. And it wasn't until I started doing that research for myself that now I'm no longer classified as chronic anemic, but I'm still borderline, but not as bad as it was.
Well,
And
so you know your body just as everybody does. You know your body better than anybody else, and So this is a great example, Ricky, of why a coach walks beside the person. Is that person always has the answer inside of themselves.
mhm,
So you always had that answer inside of yourself. You knew what your body needed. So having that person, if you can imagine having that person walking with you and supporting you and guiding you and helping, this is the marvelous thing.
yeah, and that's the good thing because this year I was able to get to a level of hemoglobin count that I've never had before. So that was that celebration moment for me. And as we get ready to wrap up, could you give us any tips or final thoughts of advice for our listeners on maybe tools of healing that they can start trying or how they can actually connect with a pain coach if
Yeah.
they're experiencing something?
Yeah, well, let me give you two things. First of all, very easy, paincoachacademy.com. You can go there for two things. One, if you're interested in becoming a pain coach, it's a fantastic career, pays quite well. And inside the website there is all the information on becoming a pain coach. There's also a button on the page there to get the book, which will be an ebook that people can order. There's a ton of tips in there. Um, Also on the website, there's a tab to find a pain coach.
Okay.
So there's plenty of resources on the website. Look, one thing I would give as a piece of advice, and this stands for anybody. I don't think you need to be in pain. Like, we all need to slow down a bit. The world is running really, really fast, and I never thought I would meditate, Ricky, but I meditate a lot and I love it. And a lot of people will roll their eyes. Oh, I don't have time for that. I would argue you don't have time not to, but most people think they can't meditate.
Mhm.
That meditation is really, really hard. Well, look, it's hard to quieten that noise, that chatter in the mind for sure. But the great benefit of meditation is you can actually get there. It takes about 40 days of repetitive practice to do it. And there's an app called Insight Timer. It's free. Get the app Insight Timer. And then there's all sorts of practices in there, but there's one by a meditation teacher called David G.I., or J.I., sorry, David J.I., David G., and he's got a 40 days of transformation. If you just plug that thing in every day, it starts off, I think, with like a 10 or 15-minute meditation. You just sit and listen. push your way through it. By the time you've hit the 40 days, you'll be meditating. And that's what I did. And now I feel like I haven't put deodorant on or brushed my teeth in the morning. If I haven't meditated, I feel like I left something behind.
Yeah.
And it's truly fantastic to be able to like really close the chatter down. It's a fantastic thing. So I would recommend that to anybody who's listening.
Okay. And also, can you let them know how they can connect with you outside of the website?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to, let me give you, so it's the best email address. I'll give you an easy one. It's Alex at 828 period media. Alex at 828.media.
Okay. Well, Alex, thank you again for sharing your insights and your experiences, and especially your journey from going from pain to being able to manage pain, because I feel like there has to be someone who will be able to resonate with you on that process of going through having something that they're struggling with and identifying it and working, being able to actually work through it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My goal is always, if we can help just one person, it's all worth it. Thank you.
And to all of my listeners, thank you. And I hope that this conversation is something that can resonate with each and every one of you. And if it does resonate with you, please make sure you share it. Please make sure you like it and give it to someone who you feel needs to hear it. And until next time, make sure you're leading well and taking care of yourself, both professionally and personally.